What if Rox never lost at God Valley, and what if he returned to Emu's bedroom just like he promised in chapter 1155? Guys, what I'm about to tell you is an alternate reality where by the time Monkey D. Luffy is born, Rox D. Xebec has already won the Great War against the world government as the king of the pirates. This of course is going to radically change the entire story of One Piece, but not in the way that you'd like. Just hear me out. You see, the God Valley incident happened 38 years ago. Shanks was less than a year old, and obviously he hadn't yet inherited Roger's straw hat. I mean, we literally see that the straw hat is still on Roger's head as he jumps onto God Valley in chapter 1096. Now, if Rox is to become the pirate king, he cannot lose at God Valley, which means the loser must be someone else. What do you guys think? Who is going to be the big loser of this reality? Is it going to be Roger, Garp, maybe Garland Garling? Well, even if it's not Roger and Roger was to survive God Valley, just the fact that Rox wins is going to be enough to change Roger's fate in the overall context of the One Piece world. He won't reach Laugh-Tale, and it's far less likely that his hat will be inherited by Shanks. But first, before we get into all of that, let me get a little bit more into detail about who Rox D. Xebec actually is. He was strong, and in fact, Rox may very well have been the strongest pirate of his era, but what kind of person was he? We know that at the Reverie over a half a century ago, he killed a Marine admiral, kidnapped 5 kings, and also made it all the way to Emu's secret chamber. As the chapter itself states, this was the first and only time something like that had ever happened, at least since the world government was established in Marijoa over 800 years ago. And let's not forget that all of this went down over a decade before the Rox pirates even became official. Yes, Rox wasn't even a pirate at the time, but he made his intentions clear to Emu. His goal was to become the king of the world. He had no issue attacking the heavenly tribute meant for the celestial dragons, or even destroying one of the gates of justice. Simply put, Rox always made sure to assert dominance. Plus, as Whitebeard said in chapter 1096, Rox isn't above losing sight of the goal. Even in chapter 1154, according to Rox himself, he's not the type to ever take no for an answer. In chapter 957, Sengoku explained that Rox was deeply curious about the world's forbidden truths that the world government works so hard to bury. And finally, in chapter 1155, when Rox came face to face with Emu, he revealed to be a follower of Davy Jones. It's no secret now that he built his crew based off of Davy back fights. And now if we're talking about those who carry on Rox's will today, then they're no less significant than Shanks or Luffy, who inherited Roger's will. Marshall D. Teach and Loki, the Cursed Prince, are both insanely relevant figures who want to continue Rox's legacy. And now that we've recapped the fundamental information about Rox, let's go into his plan of how he's going to be coming back to Emu, defeating the world government, and taking over as the new king of the world. But wait, what about Roger? Honestly, forget about Roger for now. Let's just say he's a sus guy who literally teamed up with a glorified cop to save the celestial scum back in God Valley. But let's go ahead and get back to Rox. In chapter 1156, we learned that his plan centered around 2 key objectives. The first is finding 2 devil fruits. One of them was in Elbath, and Rox wanted Harold to eat that fruit because only then could it reach its full potential. I'm pretty sure that this fruit is Elbath's legendary devil fruit, and honestly, I think the theory about Elbath's legendary devil fruit being the actual Nika fruit may just be a misdirection here. Yes, Elbath's legendary devil fruit has to be something else, especially since Rox specifically wanted Harold, the ancient giant, to consume it. That tells us that the fruit's true power can only be achieved through the body of an ancient giant, unlike the Nika fruit, which adapted to Luffy's will. And as for the second fruit, well, this could be the Nika fruit, but honestly, I'm not really too sure. You see, in Rox's case, Joy Boy just isn't that relevant, at least not as relevant as Davy Jones, so it's gotta be a different fruit. As for what fruit that may be, we don't know yet. It may be the Yami Yami no Mi. It could also be the Guru Guru no Mi. Think of it this way though. Back then, Rox wanted Harold to eat the Elbath fruit, and he likely wanted the second most important guy in his crew to eat the strongest Paramecia, because the same way Guru Guru no Mi is crucial to Blackbeard's plan, it must have also been just as crucial to Rox's plan. Now, of course, this is just a theory and I could be wrong, but right now it seems likely that this is how Whitebeard got his fruit in the first place. But anyways, all of that is just the first part of his plan. The second part is finding the so-called Galila giants, who are heavily implied to be frozen on Punk Hazard right now. And honestly, it basically confirmed that they're somehow connected to one of the ancient weapons. And as Rox said in chapter 1156, and I quote, Elbaf is the key to bringing down the Holy Land. To sum it all up, Rox needed 2 devil fruits, one for Harold to eat, but the other is not confirmed yet. He wanted the Galila giants, likely for an ancient weapon maybe, and then he needed Elbaf on his side. All of this was his plan to destroy the world government and becoming the king of the world. Now if we go into the original timeline, we know that Rox's downfall happened at God Valley 38 years ago. Meanwhile, Harold was taken out 14 years ago by his own guards, but they were almost certainly under Emu's influence. But see, in this reality, Rox doesn't fall at God Valley. He wins and most likely slaughters the celestial dragons on the island, including Figarland Garling. Roger and Garp survive, but they lose. Whitebeard stays on Rox's side for the time being, and in the following years, as Harold continues to hit a wall trying to engage in dialogue with the world government, he begins to consider Rox's offer. And then, within a decade of the God Valley incident, is when the rock pirates will somehow, in some way, make it to the final island and learn everything that there is to know about the world. I do think Rox would also laugh just like Roger, but he may not have as much of a positive opinion about Joy Boy as Roger did, and he most definitely won't name that island Laugh Tale. But moving on, he'll also realize that he's too early, but unlike Roger, who knew his time was up, Rox would vow to return when the time is right. He would also be officially crowned the king of the pirates, and the world would split into 2 major blocks, almost like a Cold War. Entire nations would start considering joining Rox's empire because while pirates are bad, there's no reason for Rox not to expose the world government for what it truly is. And this right here is going to bring me to the point that will change everything. As the world begins to learn more about the world government's true nature and countries in the new world actually start joining Rox after he promised them autonomy, Elbaf's allies may also start choosing to join Rox. And then voila! There will come a time when Harold will choose for Elbaf and himself to join the Rox's crew. Again, he may still not agree with Rox, but he'll see that if he joins Rox as a partner, he can actually make the Rox's empire more democratic. Do keep in mind that Harold was to Rox what Whitebeard was to Roger. They were equals in the truest sense of the world. I mean, Rox literally beat Kaido's ass just because he suggested using force to make Harold join the crew. But going back to this alternate reality, where do Roger and Garp play into all of this? And to answer that, let me start by asking you a simple question. Did Garp ever go to Wano? Did Rayleigh or Gabon ever go to Wano even after learning about what happened to Oden? No, it wasn't until Luffy that Wano was finally saved. And when we tie that into this reality, Roger and Garp will be the same. There'll be strong elements, but they won't be able to intervene in this great battle between 2 superpowers. Ultimately, after Rox has the 2 devil fruits, Harold, Galila giants, Elbaf, the New World, and many nations on his side, that is when they'll win against the world government. The celestial dragons would be executed and the world government will be abolished. And all of this will happen around the same time as Roger reaches Elbaf in the actual story, as in 25 years ago. The world will enter the Great Pirate Era, but it'll be officially endorsed by Rox, the king of the world. He'll name his world order the Davy Empire, which is founded on what he calls the Law of Davy Jones. But the thing is, this law doesn't replace the world's government authoritarianism with freedom. Instead, it rebrands anarchy, piracy, and war as freedom by force. Under the law of Davy Jones, the world becomes a brutal meritocracy and strength is the only thing that matters. It'll be like a hybrid of Kaido's and Blackbeard's ideal world. And just to give you guys a better idea of what that looks like, alliances will be forged through Davy-backed fights. Yes, nations would wager their sovereignty. If you lose a round, your strongest guy is now part of another nation's army. If you lose 3 rounds, your island becomes property of the winning nation. The right of conquest will also be absolute. If a stronger crew can defeat your nation's defenders in open battle, they can claim it, no questions asked. Again, this whole idea of Rox would defend it as true freedom. And of course, it'll cause an ideological rift between Rox and Harold because this world would be fundamentally against Harold's vision of a system of representative leadership where each allied nation retains independence but votes on shared decisions. But there's just no way Rox would give up central power. This will lead to tensions, and Harold would try to form an Elbaf-led bloc within the Empire to counter Rox, and the world would try to split again between the Davy Empire and Elbaf's union that wants decentralized governance under Harold. At the same time, there would also be an internal rebellion from guys like Whitebeard, not to mention Roger Pirates choosing to align with Harold. However, Roger would soon die from his illness, and Rox would orchestrate Harold's assassination just like Emu did in the actual manga. He'd also purge Elbaf's historical record and rebrand Harold as a traitor. In other words, he'd basically revise history just like the world government does. Next, with Harold out of the way, Rox would have Loki, the cursed prince of Elbaf, eat the legendary fruit and become his right hand. And because Harold's death was orchestrated, Loki will have no idea that it was Rox who carried it out. He'll just agree with Rox that his father had the wrong idea and eat the fruit. Following this, Loki would be declared the warlord of Elbaf, and Elbaf will become the military capital of the Davy Empire. Rox's son Blackbeard, on the other hand, will become the official ruler of Pirate Island, while Wano would be Kaido's territory. And honestly, when you think about all of this, it's not very different from the new world that we have in the actual manga. But anyways, around the same time this is happening, Ace will be born as Roger's son, and Portgas the Rogue will give him Roger's Straw Hat. Meanwhile, an age of piracy unlike anything before would start, but ironically, Rox's empire will become a different flavor of the very world government he destroyed. Monkey D. Dragon would start rallying around the revolutionary army with the intention of eventually waging war on the Davy Empire. Mihawk, Shanks, Sakazuki, Kuzan, Borsalino, and other strong characters will remain relevant, but their worldviews would also be just as gray as they are in the actual manga. And because of that, they wouldn't be able to change a thing. Buggy though would somehow become rich. Eventually, a boy named Monkey D. Luffy would be born in the East Blue. At the age of 7, he'll meet Ace and Sabo. The three would become sworn brothers, and together they'll share their dream. However, after Luffy reveals his dream, whatever that is, Ace will feel a strange fleeting moment of historical clarity. Yes, Luffy won't say he wants to become Pirate King like Roger, since Roger never becomes one in this world, but the dream that comes out of Luffy's mouth will be the same exact as Ace's father's dream, which he learned from his mother. Keep in mind that Ace would be fond of Roger in this reality. Eventually, the Nika fruit would find its way to Luffy, and of course, he's gonna eat it. One day, Luffy would fall into the sea, and Ace will have to save him from a Sea King because Luffy can't swim. It would mirror the same exact moment when Shanks saved Luffy. Thanks, Ace. I really thought I was gonna die. Wait. Where's your arm? Luffy would ask. Then don't die until you achieved your dream, you idiot brother. He'll place his straw hat on Luffy's head and continue by saying, here, take this. You can return the straw hat once you achieve your dream. Then, as the flow of time continues, Luffy would rally his crew and rise to bring about the dawn of the world. Because as it was always meant to be for the third world, within the chaos there was emptiness. The inconvenient remnants recall the promised day and hear the voice of the half moon. The sun god dances and laughs, guiding the world to its end. The sun returns and brings a new morning, and they will surely meet. In the end, whether it's this version of reality or the one in the original manga, one thing is absolute. Luffy will achieve his dream. Because as they say, inherited will, the destiny of the age, and the dreams of the people. As long as people continue to pursue the meaning of freedom, these things will never cease to be. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on what if Rox D. Xebec was to become Pirate King. But what about you guys? Do you agree with this whole reality? Is there something that you may have changed? Is there something that you don't agree with? Let me know all of that down below in the comments. I'm going to be reading them and responding to them. And if you guys want to see some more what ifs in the future and some chapter recaps, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit that like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. But I don't know, man, looking back at all of this, is Rox being Pirate King actually as bad as what the world government is doing now, or is it better? Who knows? And I'll catch you guys in the next upload. Peace.